Good day, everyone. This is Jake Tolosa Largo, and today I will be discussing to you the literature under the Republic 1946-1985. But before we delve into our topic, let's have first our learning objectives. At the end of the discussion, learners should be able to first explain the historical and literary context of Philippine literature in English during the Republic period. Then, identify important Filipino writers, their major works, and literary contributions. Next is explain how writers use English to express Filipino identity, culture, history, and social realities. Then lastly, appreciate the contributions of Filipino writers to Philippine literature. So our introduction. The literature under the Republic 1946-1985 refers to the period after the Philippines became independent from the United States in 1946. During this time, Filipino writers continued to write in English, but they used the language to express Filipino experiences, cultures, traditions, history, and identity. Writers created different kinds of literary works, such as poems, short stories, novels, plays, essays, and literary criticism. Their works often talk about the problem and experiences of Filipinos, including poverty, inequality, politics, war, migration, changing traditions, and the search for national identity. So, in short, this period was when writers used literature to tell Filipino stories and express what it meant to be Filipino after independence. Historical and literary context. The Republic period was a time when the Philippines was rebuilding after World War II. The country faced many problems, such as poverty, political issues, and changes in society. During this period, Filipino writers wrote about ordinary Filipino life and explored important ideas such as nationalism, freedom, culture, and Filipino identity. Although English was introduced by the Americans, Filipino writers adapted English to express Filipino experiences. They included Filipino traditions, values, places, history, and everyday life in their English writings. In short, Filipino writers use English as a tool to tell Filipino stories and show Filipino culture and identity. Important Filipino writers and B.M. Gonzalez 1915-1999. And B.M. Gonzalez 1915-1999 was a Filipino writer, poet, and a teacher. He was known for writing about Filipino rural life, culture, family, work, and traditions. One of his important work is the Bamboo Dancers. The story is about Ernie Rama, a Filipino sculptor studying in the United States while living abroad. Ernie meets other Filipinos and begin to think about who he is as a Filipino and how connected he is to his homeland. The bamboo dance, tinikling, represents the Filipino culture and traditions that Ernie carries with him. It also shows the tension between traditions and Western influences. So, in short, the Bamboo Dancers shows the struggles of a Filipino living abroad to understand and maintain his Filipino identity and culture. Bienvenido Santos, 1911-1986. 1996. Bienvenido Santos was a Filipino-American writer and educator. He often wrote about Filipino living abroad, especially their feelings of homesickness, displacement, loneliness, and longing for their homeland. One of his famous work is The Scent of Apples. The story is about a Filipino writer who meets Mr. Martin, a Filipino immigrant living in Michigan. Although Mr. Martin has lived in America for many years, he still misses the Philippines and remembers his life back home. The scent of apples represents his life in America, while his memory shows his continuing love and connection to the Philippines. So, in short, the scent of apples shows how Filipino immigrants may live in another country but still miss their homeland and keep their Filipino identity and memories. Next, we have Carlos Bulusan, 1913-1956. Carlos Bulusan was a Filipino-American writer, labor activist. He wrote about the experiences of Filipino workers and immigrants in America, especially their struggles with poverty, discrimination, racism, and unfair treatment. One of his famous work is The America is in the Heart. Follows Alos, a poor Filipino who travels to the United States hoping to find a better life. However, he experiences many difficulties as a migrant worker. Despite these struggles, he becomes involved in the labor environment and grows as a writer and activist. In short, America is in the Heart shows the hardship faced by Filipino immigrants in America and their continuing hope for equality, dignity, and a better life. Edith L. Tiempo, 1919 to 2011. Edith L. Tiempo was a Filipino poet, writer, teacher, and literary critic. She became National Artist for Literature in 1999 together with her husband Edalberto K. Tiempo. They established the Siliman National Writers Workshop. One of her important novels is A Blade of Fern. The story follows Sita, a young woman who moves with her husband to a remote mining community. There, she faces an unfamiliar and difficult environment and meets different kinds of people. As Sita experiences life in the mining community, she learns more about herself, her values, and the difficulties of the people around her. So, in short, A Blade of Fern shows how difficult experiences can help a person understand themselves, their values, and the world around them. Next, we have Elsa M. Coscoluela. Elsa M. Coscoluela was a Filipino poet, short story writer, and playwright from Bacolod. Her literary career was active during the 1960s and 1970s. Her work often explored Filipino experiences, relationships, and social realities. One of her major work is The First Fruit. The story follows Anna, a young woman who becomes pregnant by her wealthy former boyfriend. When his family rejects her because of her poor background, Anna decides to raise her child on her own. This story explores love, social class, family pressure, responsibility, and women independence. Anna's decision shows her strength and courage in facing difficult circumstances. So, in short, The First Fruit shows how a woman can remain strong and responsible despite social inequality and personal struggles. So I salute to those single mom out there who raise their kids well, even though they face struggles or obstacles, they always been still remaining strong to support their kids and also raise them well. So we have F. Shonel Jose, 1924-2022. F. Shonel Jose was a Filipino writer, essayist, publisher, and national artist for literature. His work reflects important Filipino issues such as social inequality, poverty, land ownership, colonialism, and political power. One of his major work is The Story of Buon. The story follows Eustaquio Estac Salvador, a young Ilocano man from a poor farming family. During the Spanish colonial period, after his family experienced perse- persecution and hardship, they are forced to leave their home and search for a safer place. Their journey is filled with difficulties as they try to build a new life in Pangasinan. The story also connects the family experiences with the larger struggles of Filipino under colonial rule. So Puon represent the struggles of ordinary Filipinos under colonial rule and their desire for freedom, justice, and a better future. So I think that it um, give us or represent that as a future leader or as a leader, we need to do our responsibility. We need to serve the society well because we are a public servant. We are not just pests because we gain public trust from the people. So if you don't want to lose that trust, so do your responsibility and be a transformational leader who shows people what equality means and provide a opportunity so that people can feel the sense of belongingness that can ensure the progress and a world that is or a community that is united. Alberto S. Florentino. Alberto S. Florentino, 1931-2018, was a Filipino playwright and a publisher known for writing short, realistic plays about the lives of ordinary Filipinos. He received recognition from the Carlos Palanca Awards for his plays in Filipino and English. One of his work is The Cadaver. Cadaver takes place near a cemetery in a poor area of Manila. The place represents the difficult situation of people living in poverty and hunger, using a dead body as a part of the story. The play represents poverty, hunger, and human suffering, showing the harsh realities experienced by poor Filipinos. So, in conclusion, literature under the Republic 1946-1985 was an important period in Philippine literature because Filipino writers began using English as a way to express their own Filipino experiences and identity. Instead of simply following Western style, they wrote about Filipino culture, tradition, history, struggles, and everyday life. Writers such as N.B.M. Gonzalez, Benvenido Santos, Carlos Bulusan, Edith Tiempo, F. Shonel Jose, Elsa M. Coscoluela, and Alberto Esperantino explore different aspects of Filipino life. Their works discuss themes such as poverty, migration, social inequality, family, identity, colonialism, and also social change. So, in short, this period shows how Filipino writers made English their own by using it to tell Filipino stories, preserve culture, reflect social realities, and express the experience and aspirations of the Filipino people. So references, and thank you for listening.